24 without loss, and these are the statistics that was gathered by the Witkruis Monument Farm Attack and Murder Statistics Group for March 2024 in South Africa. These figures differ from the figures that was published by Rome Research Institute 2 days back, and for certain reasons, I've also included other attacks, namely for Camildrift West and also for Namibia. That's why the numbers for Witkruis Monument, these statistics I'm presenting to you today, is more than that of my contemporary at Rome Research Institute. As I continue through this presentation, you will see why I say and why I've added these additional numbers, and then it will make better sense once you understand what I'm talking about and how I think about these things. Please be advised that the following video may contain graphic material of injuries and/or murders or descriptions thereof and may be upsetting to some viewers. Thus, I advise viewer discretion. When I published these figures on X and on certain groups last week, I only realized afterward that I actually omitted the two attacks from KwaZulu-Natal. But here's for the month the breakdown per province. Gauteng, 8, of which 6 was from Camildrift West. Limpopo, Northwest and Mpumalanga, 1 each. And Free State, 5 attacks, of which 4 were just in the northern Free State. KwaZulu-Natal with the 2 attacks there, Eastern Cape 1, Western Cape 1, and Namibia completing the line-up with 2 attacks. This puts us at, with 23 attacks for the month, it puts us at an attack rate of 1 every 32.3 hours. The aerial image that you see amongst a few others that's going to be in this lineup for Camildrift West was sent to me compliments of a friend of mine that stays in Camildrift West, and he says it's a war zone. He says there's not a day that passes that there is not something that is stolen or that people are being terrorized. And that's why I use the word tangos in some places, because that's exactly what they do. They terrorize the citizens in this area. Uh, the picture that you see was taken out of an aircraft, and it's taken from the west of Camildrift West and towards the east. And you'll see there in the background is the Magaliesberg Mountains, one of the ridges in the range. And I'm not sure which one this is, if it's the northernmost or the second northernmost. And then that is in the direction of Pretoria. You also see a yellow line stretching across the photograph. That depicts Van Raaf Road, which is the road that connects Pretoria with the town of Brits. Also gives access to the Hartbeespoort Dam and then further on towards the northwest province. Now this area, as you can see here, there's some build-up over here. There's mostly shacks, and there were some purchases of land in this area for high-density housing. And I'm talking about blocks that consist of about 200 uh, units each. And in this area is a lot of bad elements that's running around. This area has collected a lot of riffraff and dandruff from all over Africa, and even our own people. And these people, they terrorize the citizens on a daily basis. And the first attack that I'm going to discuss was that of March the 9th, 2024. A mother and son arrived home at around 10 o'clock on the Saturday night, and 3 armed perpetrators were waiting for them in their driveway. The teenage son decided he's going to resist, but when they threatened to shoot his mom by cocking a pistol against her head, he decided it was just not worth it. They demanded their cell phones and a laptop and then proceeded to assault them both by hitting them with the pistol grips. And then when the husband came out to help his family, the perpetrators fled. The son sustained injuries to his hand, on which he was operated later on and to repair the damage. The second case on March 11th was when Tango slaughtered chickens at a small holding, leaving the heads in plain sight and also sprinkling blood all over the area. They also defecated in the chicken pen before fleeing with 2 bicycles belonging to the workers on the farm. Then the next night, March the 12th, a security guard on patrol was attacked by 3 Tangos and he was wounded in the chest. He was hospitalized, and we wish him a full recovery. March 19th, a security guard was attacked at Bonanza. The Tangas hit and kicked him and then tortured him with cigarettes and molten plastic. This took about 2 hours for this whole torture process. Eventually, they took off the satchel containing his ID, some cash, and shoes, and a cell phone. March 29th, four workers that were sharing a room woke up when four Tangas broke into the room. One of the victims was shot in low abdomen and he had to be hospitalized. That was in Birdflower. Then on March the 30th, the next night, workers were attacked by four armed perpetrators entering their home while they were asleep and they were robbed of their cell phones. That was in Rietfontein. You might have heard that I used the term tangos, and by that it's a softer name for the word terrorist. If you hear and I'm going to read you some reports from my phone in a moment, but what happens in this area is, and they've got photographs of some of these perpetrators, but they just cannot catch them at the right moment. There's cameras all over this area, and that the cameras are still there and still working is beats me. It's impossible to believe that they wouldn't steal the cameras as well. But there's so many pictures of these guys' tracks that was left behind that people take photographs of. They see them on camera, they see movement on camera, and when they get there, these guys are filtered into the bush. The bush over there, especially on the northern side of the van der Half Road, is quite dense. And the moment there's movement, these guys just filter into the bush and they gone. But allow me to read something to you here. This is from last night. Plot 130 Jumbo Street is once again being targeted for breaking at the workers' quarters. Fence wire was cut and security bars have been tampered with. Then there's another one here, plot 56, Teeny Street, broken into Tuesday morning hours between 1:30 and 2:30, and the thieves were armed and stole a stole, bushcutter, blowers, and more. And then the latest that came in was uh, plot 69 in Willow Street indicates that footprints were found this morning, and it is suspected that they climbed over the fence. Plot 36, Dwarslaan at the Sunset View was accessed from the mountainside and included stole a bronze tap from the water tank on the mountain section of the plot, along with a large steel ladder for use for inspecting the tank. And this is what's happening on a daily basis in Camille West. It's a war zone. There's absolutely no there is policing, but there's absolutely no way of actually containing this crime, this wave of terror that is actually going through this area. Now, I'm not sure how big this area is. It's quite big. It runs from the outskirts of the area of the suburb of Hercules all the way to where the Van der Half Road actually crosses the mountain at Silkaartsnek. Now, that's some, I think that's about almost 30 kilometers, and this valley is about 10 kilometers wide. So it gives you an idea of how big this area is. About, let's say about 20,000. No, no, I'm not going to chance that. Uh, it gives you an idea of how big this area is. And the people are living in sheer terror. Uh, and that's Camille West. And that's why I'm adding this. Because if these things are not being uh, uh, told to the public. Who is going to tell them? Where are these stats going to be collected? In some book somewhere? No, I feel let's get the word out. And to me, because the Kamildrift area it's not strictly rural area or farmlands. It's not city either. I think the correct term for that is a very old term that was used in South Africa was peri-urban, which means that it's outside of your city. Uh, but it's not really rural. So it was mostly used for your small towns back in the 70s, and that's why I also say it's more like a peri-urban because it's like a shoulder around the city. Uh, where all these smaller holdings are. In Pretoria North, we've had some attacks there and even some murders. And the next case I'm going to talk about actually comes from an area such as this, which is to the northeast of Johannesburg, or sorry, to the northwest of Johannesburg. Now, the Muldersdrift area is similar to Kameeldrift West and Pretoria North. Lots of agricultural holdings. I think there's some people that's farming with sheep, and there's also some fish. And then horse riding, a lot of stables in that area. And this has always been a hotspot in the past, and it's been quiet now in this area for a year or two, where we haven't seen any murders or any attacks in this area. And I hope this is not the start of a new trend in this area. On the 15th of March, around 2 o'clock in the morning, a male victim was attacked in his house in Muldersdrift. His state, when the services arrived on the scene, indicated possible blunt force trauma. He was still unconscious at about 7 o'clock that morning. His safe was forced open and firearms were taken. If you look at the map that is displayed here, you'll see that the boundary of between Gauteng and Mpumalanga is on the outer right-hand side, close to the edge on the right-hand side of the map that I supplied here. The On March the 13th, around 21:30, that's 9:30, a man came home to his farm at Bosmanskraal in the Bronkhorstspruit area. He was confronted by 8 tangos, and which one assaulted him with a firearm. His house had already been ransacked, and at that point he didn't even know that his workers were already detained. So they must have been over there for quite a while. They demanded firearms, cash, and cell phones, and they also siphoned some 2,000 liters of diesel out of a tank that they had on the farm, and they loaded that into a tank that was on the back of one of the vehicles that they came with. They finally made off with frozen food, one of his freezers, and also his Mercedes-Benz AMG. Because of the diesel leaking out of their tank that they supplied, they were tracked to a place called Zitabeni, and over here the AMG was actually found back. You've probably seen these photographs on social media already. This was on the morning of 27th March at around 2 o'clock in the morning. Waking up because of a noise made by the dogs, Daniel Albrecht stepped out of his house to see what the commotion was all about. This is on the farm Elandskraal in the Mono area. He noticed an intruder and he screamed at this intruder, and the intruder just like sort of disappeared in the bush. And then he noted that the fence was already cut, and with the assistance of his wife Karina, they set about and tried to mend the fence. Two very young tangos, according to the reports that I got, almost like teenagers, 16, 17-year-old, they returned at this point and attacked them right where they were busy mending the fence using a panga and sticks. Both these two made off with a large screen TV, a laptop, and some jewelry. Both Daniel and Karina were hospitalized, and while they were off the property, these guys came back and they further ransacked their house for valuables. They even went as far as mixing soap powder with flour on the kitchen floor and making a total mess of the place. Later, inspection learned that after the first attack, they actually were off the property and then got picked up with the wares that they were taken. So it shows that these guys came prepared. What is concerning is the fact that these guys were very, very young when they attacked the Albrechts in the Alma is a small little place. You can't really call it a town, but let's call it a town for all intents and purposes, which is north of the town of Modimolle, which is on the uh, more closer to the N1 north that runs from the national freeway that runs from Johannesburg up north towards Zimbabwe. Typically, towns like these in South Africa has got a grocery store, maybe a liquor store, and a pharmacy, and then also a little hardware store and a garage where you can, or filling station, like somebody, like the people abroad would call it. And it was in an area such as this, late at night on March the 13th, when a farm worker was slightly injured when he was attacked by three tangos wielding pangas. At these shots, for help, the tangos fled. The spoor was followed to the road where it was appeared that these guys were picked up. So they definitely had a backup plan. And as I always say with regards to farm attacks, a farm attack is not a crime of opportunity. These things are planned long in advance. Two things about Mpumalanga in South Africa is the coal underneath the ground and the very fertile soil on top. So that's why you have a diverse agricultural activity in the area, stretching from raising maize and then also cattle and sheep farming in this area. What normally happens when the grass is starting to get long, the farmers actually cut the grass and they roll it into bales and they use it for winter feed. Now, on 24th of March in the Lotte Amsterdam area, you'll see there more or less in the middle of the map. At around 8 o'clock, bales of feed were torched, and the farmer rushed to the scene to help extinguish the fire. On his return to his house, he learned that somebody had actually broke into his house and stole all his firearms. Now, this is one way of getting the farmer out of the house because they knew if they tried to attack the farmer inside his house, they were really going to pick up trouble. So they made a plan to get him out of the house and probably knew that he's probably living alone in this area or his wife was away. So these things are planned long in advance. The planning process for a farm attack goes back as far back as 90 days before the actual attack takes place. So it's not a moment's rest for a farmer. As you can see, uh, emergency situation, he had to run out and they took advantage of that situation. The first of the five attacks in the Free State region occurred on very early on the Friday, the 1st of March, at the Groenvlei Agricultural Holdings outside of Bloemfontein. A 30-year-old white female woke up while being strangled by one of her two attackers. She was dragged out of the house and towards her car, and they demanded her car keys with the purpose of stealing the car. While the perps had difficulty to steal the car, she decided to bolt barefooted in search of help from neighbors. One of the perpetrators ran after her and tackled her into the dirt before dragging her back to the house. When they got closer to the house, he put her down on the ground and proceeded to violently rape her. In the process of raping her, he also started strangling her, and it was probably only her pleas for a bit of water that actually saved her life. A case of attempted murder and rape was also opened in this one. This demarcated area in the northern Free State covers some 10,200 square kilometers, and it also includes the town of Heilbronn, the town of Frankfurt, which is more or less in the center of the screen, and then the far right of the screen you will see Memel, a town that is or an area that is renowned for its horseshoe lakes, and then in the center there's another star. If you gather that these four stars represent attacks in this area, you are quite correct. And the first one of these attacks were in Frankfurt on the 1st of March 2024. At around 2 o'clock in the morning, Herman Swartz, 74-year-old, was attacked on his farm Heine in the Frankfurt district. Him and his 78-year-old wife, as well as the domestic worker, who is 48, who stayed inside the house as an aide to his wife, were bound and slightly injured, after which the armed perpetrators wearing balaclavas demanded cash and firearms. Just 2 days later, that was on March the 3rd, which was the Sunday, in the area of Heilbronn on the farm Holfontein belonging to Louis and Sisi and Chumbela. They were slightly injured when they were attacked by between 4 and 10 perpetrators armed with handguns. This attack lasted some 4 hours, where the perps demanded cash, but they only fled with bank cards, a camera, and a laptop. Farm workers were eventually called the police. What's important in this one is that the perpetrators communicated with a heavy Basotho accent, and they warned that they were not done with this area. The attack on March the 8th does not really fall within the parameters of the warning that was given to the Cabela's. But at around noon on that day, Q Smith was busy spraying tracer on his farm in Meulstroom in the Meermol district. A tracer is an application or a pesticide that's normally used for moss. That's your insects that is feeding off the crops mainly at night, and it's harmless to your contributing insects such as your bees and also your mammals like your cattle and sheep. And he was approached by a man who resided on the farm, albeit not with proper consent, as is often the case. Prior to this, Tew did complain to the SAPS that trouble was brewing. The man alleged that the pesticide would kill his goats. In the ensuing argument, the man and three of his companions assaulted Tew with a piece of wood, causing a worker to run and call his son, who was working the farm elsewhere. The son rushed to the scene only to be attacked by these four perpetrators as well, and in the process, they robbed him of his firearm. His, there were shots fired at Tew and his son, and afterwards, both of them were treated, and cases were made against the perpetrators. They appeared in court on the Monday, and they were let out on bail. It was easy as that. And this happens often in South Africa that the perpetrators get off so easily and sometimes turn around against the farmers and turn the case around and makes the farmer look bad in this whole situation. That's where a lot of the cases that is currently being attended to by the Witkruis Monument is originating from. The fourth of the attacks in the Free State was on the morning of March 27th at around 6:30 in the morning. Arthur Cook was attacked by two tangers on his farm between Roadside and Tweeling. After assaulting him and leaving him slightly injured, they made off with his cell phone and his house keys. Local farm watch was alerted and a search conducted. These attackers were also reported to be very, very young. I want to give you a quick perception here. As we've seen in the Northwest Province with that attack over there, and also here, the one of the attackers in both cases reported to be barefooted and very, very young. And it seems like the ranks of the perpetrators or the potential farm attackers are starting to target younger guys that's wanting to prove themselves to be included in this crime syndicates, and they thus getting worked up into the ranks. That's the one thing. The other thing, like I said, the attacks against farmers that has been turned around by the perpetrators. We have the case in Potgieter's Risk where the uh, young man demanded money, and he turned around and said that the farmer attacked him. That was in the presence of the farm workers, and the farm workers actually stood by the farmer. There was another case where a perpetrator threatened to harm some of the farm workers, and the farmer actually stepped in and he defended these farm workers. So a lot of these things cuts both ways, but in a lot of cases, uh, uh, episodes like these are turned around against the farmer and makes the farmer look bad, and then the farmer is the one that's sitting in the dock instead of the perpetrator that originally started this whole thing. Before I continue, I must also add that these attacks, combined with the attack in Lidsville, brought the attack probability for the first 3 days of March to an attack every 18 hours. Later on in the month, it actually grew to about 34.6 hours, but it was still low, and eventually we landed up with a rate of 33.6 hours between each attack for March 2024. Now, there is the perception, and it's because of the time between attacks that people think that it can't happen to me. And I spoke about that in a safety video. That video was in Afrikaans. It was released week before last on a Friday, before the uh, Passover weekend. And we think that we might not be attacked, but it's always a probability. And like I said in that video, that the material that I got from Kaliru from the Transvaal Agricultural Union, that your probability to be attacked in South Africa is about 100%. And yes, there are certain measures that you can take, but we don't always take these measures, and then we get into trouble. On the night of March 14th at around 9 o'clock at night, a farmer went from the Melmoth district, as you can see on the map, in the center, a couple of some 200 miles, kilometers north of Durban. Uh, he went outside to switch off the generator after load shedding. Upon his return into the house, he was confronted by a tanker wielding a shotgun. He tackled the bird, but as he got control, he realized his wife was in the bedroom door with two more tangers holding a knife against her throat. He was promptly told to stand down, which was peculiar as this was a command that was typically military behavior. It turned out the Tangas, dressed in dark blue and black, got access through a bathroom window while he was outside. They were tied up with barbed wire, and the keys for the safe was demanded of him. They emptied the safe, and they also made off with his 9mm pistol that was lying on his bedside table. When they left with his Hilux truck, they took the couple along, and the they were taken to it in Kandla, and at some point they were dumped next to the road, and shots were fired all around them. This was around 1 o'clock, and the tangers continued on their way, leaving them next to the road. They started walking back toward Melmoth, and they were picked up by a passerby who assisted in calling in Fetchy security. The Hilux truck was later found abandoned next to the road. The second attack for KZN was on Sunday, the 31st of March 2024. An unknown male victim at Kruiten was assaulted with a rock, and his pleas for help aroused neighbors who chased the attackers away. And that wraps up KwaZulu-Natal with two attacks over there. On the 27th of March, a female victim was assaulted by two tangers in the Kmouth area. We don't have a lot of details, but we know that several household items were taken and that one suspect was apprehended soon afterwards. This is one of the attacks that happened on the first weekend of March, that was on March 3rd, 2024. An elderly couple aged 71 and 68 respectively was attacked on their farm at Klein Plasie in the Lidsville area on the Western Cape around 2 o'clock in the morning. Five perpetrators severely assaulted them. Thereafter, the perpetrators ransacked the house for valuables. Cash and other household items were taken, and while still bound and injured, their gardener only found them and released them at around 9:30. That wraps up the attacks for South Africa, and we're going to move over next toward Namibia, where there were two attacks for March 2024. This attack occurred on March 2nd, 2024. A middle-aged couple were attacked on their farm in the Onmaya area, 20 kilometers south of the Namibia capital of Windhoek. They were bound and held hostage separately, after which the four perpetrators ransacked the house and forced them to transfer large sums of money per e-wallet. As I've warned before, graphic images. This was on Monday, March 25, on the farm of Louis Steyn, Farm Highlands in the Grootfontein district. And it's listed as a farm attack because an act like this actually is an attack on the integrity of the farm and its ability to produce economically henceforth. So this is why I say some of these are included in my stats and not in somebody else's stats, the stats by my counterparts at Rome Research, because this is regarded as a farm attack as well. That wraps up the attacks for March, but it also brings me to the two headaches I had for March. First one was the death message that was spread about Daniel Albrecht about 2 3 days after the attack on them in the Mweno area. And the origins of that message was tracked back to where it started. Now, me for one, because it was distributed on recognized channels, I went and I furthered this message, and the next morning I actually had to go and apologize for spreading this message. It's easy to fall into these traps, but it's also easy to think, you know what, let's put a wild card in there and say this guy is dead while he is not. So that wraps up that one. The second one was a picture that was from 2022 that was distributed all over social media with bold letters heading this picture "Farm Attack," while it was a farm attack from 2 years ago. That picture also was spread far and wide on social media, Twitter, Facebook, or well, X, Facebook, also on Telegram. And no matter how hard you try, you cannot stop these people from actually sending this out. So please take care if you send a message out about a farm attack. Please make sure if it's a photograph that you're sharing, please make sure that you look at the date stamp. Look at the validity of such a message before you spread it. and then save us all in that process a whole lot of headaches. The information and the statistics in this production was compiled by the Witkruis Monument Farm Attack and Murder Statistics Group. Witkruis Monument is a registered non-profit company with a registration number of 2024/189/629/08. Please, if you want to make contributions to the Witkruis Monument, you are welcome to contact me below in the comments box for details, and we can take it from there. That's all from me, and hopefully April is not too heavy on us with regards to farm attacks, and hopefully no murders either, like in March. So let's hope for the best. Pray for our farmers. Keep them in your prayers. And if you come across a farmer, please give him a firm handshake because he's doing one hell of a job.